So what happens when a group that has power over your money decides to make all its key decisions in total secret? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dissect a real-world case study to see the fallout and, what it really means for the rest of us.
I mean, it's a frustrating feeling, right? We've probably all been there. An official-looking letter shows up, and boom, just like that, your monthly fees are going up. But the reason why? It's vague. Or worse, it's completely missing. You're just left holding the bill, wondering who on earth decided this and why.
Well, that exact experience is often the work of what our source material calls a black box committee. Think of it like this. Your money, your questions, all the important data, it all goes into one end of this box, and out the other comes a final binding decision. The whole process in the middle, the debates, the evidence, the reasoning, it's a complete mystery to the very people it affects most.
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain on this specific case and see exactly how this black box thinking played out in the real world.
When you really dig into it, the analysis shows this committee's problems boil down to two huge issues. First, a total failure to base their financial decisions on actual evidence. And second, a complete systemic breakdown in transparency that basically kept everyone in the dark. And these weren't separate problems either. They fed into each other, creating this downward spiral into a total collapse of good governance.
All right, let's start where a lot of these problems really begin, with the money. The very first critical mistake was trying to make major financial decisions without any kind of roadmap. Now, in any well-run community association, that roadmap is called a reserve study. It's a super detailed report. It looks at all the shared stuff, the roof, the pipes, the pool, and it professionally estimates when things will need to be replaced and how much it's going to cost. And let's be crystal clear here, this isn't just some nice-to-have thing. It is the fundamental way a board proves it's acting responsibly with the community's money. It's a huge deal.
And this slide right here really shows you the crazy difference between what should happen and what actually did. On the left, you see the proper way. Key financial details are shared openly with everyone. But on the right, that's the reality in this case. The committee just skipped it completely. There was literally no evidence that a study was ever used as a foundation for anything they did.
And here it is, the direct consequence. Without that data, the fee increases were basically just numbers pulled out of thin air. The source document just nails it. The decisions were non-evidence-based. And that, my friends, is a massive, massive red flag in any organization.
So the financial foundation was already a mess. But that problem was made so much worse by the fact that the entire process was wrapped in secrecy. Let's get into the second failure, because this is where you see how deep the rot really went.
And I really have to emphasize this. This wasn't just, a few missteps or a forgotten email. The analysis shows that from the very moment the committee was created until its final recommendations were unveiled, every single stage was hidden from public view. Every single one.
This table here breaks down just how secretive the committee was from day one. You'd expect an open call for volunteers, right? Clear terms of reference so everyone knows the rules of the game? A public list of who was on the committee? But here? Nope, none of it happened. The committee was formed in secret, its mandate was secret, and its members were secret. I mean, how can a community possibly trust a group it knows absolutely nothing about?
And the secrecy didn't just stop at its formation. When it came to its actual work, there were no public meeting announcements, no minutes shared with anyone, and, this one's critical, no consultation period for members to give feedback. The source calls this exclusion by silence. I love that phrase. The final recommendations just appeared out of nowhere right before the vote, which made them feel totally imposed, not collaboratively decided.
So, what we have is a foundation of bad finances built on top of a process of complete secrecy. But what's the real damage? Well, it turns out the cost of this kind of opacity, this secrecy, is incredibly high. It's actually corrosive to the entire community. The first, and maybe the most immediate consequence, is a massive trust deficit. It's just human nature. When a leadership group operates in secret, the community naturally becomes suspicious. It completely erodes the fundamental trust between the members and the people they elected to represent them. Next up, it just shatters the whole idea of informed consent. Think about it. Members were asked to vote on these big fee hikes at the annual general meeting, but they were never given the background reports, the data, or the meeting minutes. Voting without information isn't democracy. It's just being a rubber stamp. And finally, it makes accountability absolutely impossible. With no public record of who said what, which data was used, or how decisions were actually made, who can be held responsible for the outcome?
The trail just goes cold, and accountability becomes completely untraceable.
So that's the anatomy of a failure. But the good news is, this analysis isn't just about pointing out what went wrong, it actually gives us a really clear path forward. We can call it the Good Governance Playbook.
This right here is the antidote to the black box. It's a simple 4-step process. Step 1, launch formally, so the rules are clear for everyone from day 1. 2, operate openly, with public meetings and shared minutes. 3, consult widely, by actively going out and asking for feedback. And 4, report fully, giving members all the information they need to make a truly informed choice. Look, this isn't rocket science, but it absolutely requires commitment.
And this brings us to the single most important rule from this entire case. Honestly, if you remember only one thing, let it be this. The cornerstone of good financial governance is to ground every single major decision in hard evidence. No big fee increase should ever be approved without a current reserve study to back it up. Period. No exceptions.
As we've seen, this case study has some really powerful lessons for any group, from a small homeowners association all the way up to a large corporation. And it leaves all of us with one final really important question to think about. When you look at your own community, how does its governance measure up? Thanks for joining us.